Okay, great. We're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks everybody for joining. This is the Close IO for Salespeople webinar. This is one of two webinars that we host every week, with the other one being our Close IO for Admin webinar. This one is geared more towards the day-to-day use of Close IO. So as a salesperson, how are you going to interact with the tool, use it on a daily basis? The one on Tuesday is a little bit more for an admin that might be customizing the system in an initial setup type of way. So hopefully you're in the right place. Both of them probably will be beneficial for you if you dabble in both roles, but that's generally what we're going to cover today. So my name is Matt. I'm on the customer success team here at Close.io. I am also joined by Whitney, who is also on the success team here at Close.io, and she will help me out with any questions that might come up during the webinar. So just a couple of housekeeping notes before we do get started. You are all on mute, which you're probably well aware of. So if you do need to chat in, you can use a Zoom chat. We will answer the questions kind of as we go, and if there are any questions that we want to address to the larger group at the end, we will go ahead and do that. You'll also get this deck in the recording after the webinar, so feel free to take any notes if anything pops out to you, but if you don't remember it or you want to share this with other people on your team, you will have a recording afterwards. Great, so here's what we're going to cover today. So this webinar is really about, again, the day-to-day use of Close.io and how to be the most productive as you can possibly be with using our tool. So we're going to go through the interface and kind of show you the different sections and what you should expect to find in Close.io. Then we'll go through the inbox and how calling, email, and SMS and tasks work. We'll switch gears and do smart searching and smart views and how you can isolate groups of people, then put them in the similar bucket, and then we will go through some of our bulk features. So power dialer, bulk email, how can you reach as many people as you can in the quickest way? And then some general tips for structuring your day in Close.io that we've learned over the years working with customers, and then we'll switch it over to a Q&A if there are any questions at the end. Cool. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to look at first is actually the lead page. So we're going to go ahead and click in one of these leads. And Close.io was designed to make it easy to have conversations with your leads and customers. So our whole philosophy is that we want to make it so that everything you need to contact your leads is in one place without you having to constantly switch contexts. So to get the same place that you get and store your leads from a data perspective should be the same place that you communicate with them. So any information that you would need or any historical context on a lead, you should be able to find it in Close.io. So to start off, here's the lead page, and on the left you can see certain types of information, open tasks, who they're assigned to, any opportunities that are open with this lead or have been won or lost in the past. I can see all of my contacts listed. I can actually show all of them if I need to. I can click into them. I can see phone numbers, emails, any contact information that I need. Down on the left a little further, here are all the custom fields. So this will be obviously different based on your business, but whatever information that you've deemed important to record and log into Close.io, you'll have it here. You can edit custom fields. You can add new custom fields as you find out different pieces of information about your customers or however you're using them. But these will be specific to your business and you can search on them as well. And then on the right, what we'll have is kind of our historical context in terms of activities and communication that we have with this lead. So if your email is synced to Close.io, it's going to pull in any historical emails that you have with any email account that's tied to a contact that's in Close.io. So when you actually go and set it up, if you have a 2-year existing relationship with a certain customer and you put them in as a lead or contact in Close.io, you're going to start to see all of the email communication that you've had with that lead start to populate. So we're going to go back and grab all of your recent and historical conversations, and they'll be in here as well. And any future communication that you have with that lead, whether you're sending the email from Close.io or sending it from your phone, wherever, it'll all be in here. As long as your email is synced and that customer's email address is in there too. So you'll have all of that email history. Then you'll also have any tasks that have been completed. You'll have any calls that you've made, any missed calls. So I missed a call from Job, any notes that anyone's written. They'll all be in here. And if you need to, you can go and sort by a particular type. So if I wanted to see all the notes that I've taken, or for example, I can see all of my activity. So if I only want to look at what I've done with this lead, I can go and click mine. And you can do the same thing with anything like SMS calls. So you can kind of filter the view that way. And then as you go through, you'll be able to see anything that you need to highlight or that rings a bell that help you with your conversations. And then you'll be able to email, call, and SMS right from the system. But before I jump into that, I'm actually going to switch gears and go over to the inbox. So when you think about your day in inbox, that's generally where you're going to start your day, because this is going to be all of your inbound communication. So any inbound communication, any opportunities that you have that are supposed to close, or any tasks that you've created for yourself, they'll all be listed on that day, where when you go in your inbox, that'll be all of your inbound communications probably from overnight. So I have 3 items in my inbox. I have a task, I have an opportunity that I'm supposed to follow up on, and I have an email. So working out of inbox helps you keep yourself organized, because it's only the conversations that are happening with your existing customers or any contact that's in Close.io. So I can actually go in and look at this email and reply to it directly from within Close.io. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit reply here, and then I will write a response. And I do have the ability to do a couple of different things with email. So if I want to, if I had a templated response that I could send out, it's a common question or anything, I could use a template. If I wanted to set a reminder for myself to follow up if I don't receive a reply, I can do that too. That's very useful for sales, any type of prospecting. So if you are trying to schedule a meeting with somebody and you want to make sure that if they don't reply, that you follow up with them instead of creating a task manually for yourself. You could just click this button and then say, remind me to follow up if no reply within a certain period of time. So I could say like next Tuesday. But in this case, I'm just answering a question for her, so I don't necessarily need to do that. And then I could also send it later if I wanted to. So if I did schedule a demo or did schedule a meeting and decided that the day before I just want to cover my bases and say, hey, we have a meeting for tomorrow, are we still good? I could schedule that today, not have to remember to send that follow-up, and then just schedule it to go out the day before. So if we had a meeting next Tuesday, I could send that Monday at 4 p.m. And that would just say, hey, are we still good for the meeting? Let me know if you need to reschedule. Could help me at least decrease some no-show rates, maybe get my actual meeting attendance up. So just a little tool that you can use there. But in this case, I'm not going to use either one of them. So I can just go ahead and hit send, and you can see that it's sending. If I typed her name in wrong or something, I could undo send for a couple seconds, and then it'll send off to that. And if she opens it, I'll see the little notification that there's an open email, so I could see that she did open it, how many times, what day, all that type of stuff will be in there. And then when I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and mark this item as done. And what this will do is it'll mark, I won't see this task anymore. And if I go into Gmail, which is what we use, that email will actually be in my archive folder. So once I'm done with all of my emails from customers and I go back over into Gmail, the only thing that I'm going to see over there is all of the email communication that's either internal, like within the team, which isn't going to get synced into Close.io by default, or it'll be any external communication. So if like not customers, or if I'm subscribed, like if you're subscribed to our blog, for example, any of our blog content or any other blogs or newsletters that you're on, that'll all be in there. So it's maybe important if you like our blog, but it's not as important as the conversations that you're having with your customers. So using Inbox will help you keep focused on the conversations that you're actually having with customers or leads. The next item that I'm going to look at is this opportunity with Nick. So this is supposed to be an opportunity that's supposed to close, should have closed about 5 days ago. So I'm a little overdue on it. But what I can do here is I can actually, or 7 days ago, I can look at this lead and I can go ahead and give Nick a call. So calling in Close.io is really simple if you're on our professional or business plan. You can just look for any of the calling icons and just click them. If you click into an actual contact and you want to call a particular number, you can just click that number. Or if you click this button at the top, it'll call whoever the main contact at that lead is. So when I go to actually call out, you want to make sure that your phone settings are set up correctly first, so you can actually request a new number if you need to. So if, for example, when you'll be randomly assigned a number when you start, if you need to go and change that number, you can easily request a new area code, and then you'll be randomly assigned a number. And then you can obviously have group numbers too if you're on our business plan, and you could just talk to us about that. But you'll have a number, and you can actually have some other numbers too. So if you have a group number or a forwarding number, you could change out your caller ID. So if I had, for example, my cell phone number, and I was calling somebody that knows my cell phone number, and I know they're much more likely to pick up if they see it's coming from the cell phone, I could set up my cell phone as a caller ID and call from that number, so you can verify it and use it that way. You can also have calls forwarded to your cell phone if you're not logged into Close.io, or if you don't answer the call, it'll be automatically sent over to your cell phone, or any number. You can forward to any number. Then we have call recording. So if you're on our business plan, you can actually record the audio of the call. You can listen back to it later if you want to go and recall a certain piece of information. And then you obviously have your sound settings. So you will be able to say where you want your sound output to come from. Obviously, if you're wearing headphones, that'll be your best bet. But for example, ringing, you might want to say, hey, my headphones sit next to my desk. I don't wear them unless I'm on the phone. So when ringing happens, I want it to come out of my laptop speakers instead. So that's something that you can set up easily. And then if you do need to dial a number outside of Close.io, you can do that right here as well. But in this case, I'm just going to give Nick a call, and then you'll see how the calling works. So up here, you'll see calls going out to Nick. I'm calling him. I hear the ringing in my ear, and then it'll just be like a normal phone call. So if Nick answers, I'll have my call notes here, and I'll be able to take any notes about it and do anything with this lead. But in this case, he's not going to answer, so this will be no answer, and then I can go ahead and just mark this as done. Cool. So I made that call. He didn't answer, and then I can kind of move back and say, all right, I'm going to then send Nick an email to follow up with him, and I'm going to use a template. So because I didn't reach him, hey, just friendly follow-up, I can go ahead and select any template that I have access to, or I can go and manage my templates. So if I go into manage templates, you'll be able to create your own templates, and these can be just messages that you maybe send a lot of, or follow-ups. You can have a kind of like a sequence of emails that you would send. Hey, I'll send this one, and then that one, and then this one if I don't receive a reply. And what you can do in there is you can swap out information based on who you're talking to. So you can put their name, you can put your organization name, you can put their company name, any number of things. You can use our what we call template tags and insert any of this information. So if you have a particular like the city or the state that they're in, or whatever information makes sense in terms of the context of your message, you could dynamically insert that into the template. So then when the template loads, it already has all that stuff in it, and you don't have to worry about sending the same message over and over and over again. So if we go back to Nick, which anytime you're in Close.io, you can obviously go back, and it'll take you back to where you were. So I sent the follow-up one. So this is Wayne Enterprises, which is my company name, friendly follow-up. So I want to show Nick how we can help him with inside sales productivity. Does he have 15 minutes for a call? In this case, I will remind myself. So I'll say, hey, if he doesn't answer this one, I'm going to remind myself to follow up in a week and send this off. And then because my opportunity obviously isn't closing last week or today, most likely, I'm going to go ahead and push this off till next week, so that if I'm talking with my sales manager who's asking me what my pipeline looks like, I can say, hey, this is what I'm working on with Nick. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. It's still up in the air, but I think it'll close next week. Cool. So that covers just some of the email stuff. And then what we'll do is go back into inbox. And because I moved the close date of that opportunity, it's now no longer in my inbox. So where it is, it's actually going to be in my future inbox. So you can, when you're looking at your inbox, you can see obviously the items that are currently need your attention, or you can see the things that you've done or the things that are in the future. So future inbox is mostly like what is coming up but it's not necessarily important today. So what I see in here now is the opportunity follow-up, which is going to come back into my inbox on the 30th. But I also see that follow-up reminder on the email that I just sent. So if Nick doesn't reply in a week's time or a little bit more, I will actually get a notification in my inbox to follow up on that email. If he does reply, this is going to be automatically be kind of canceled, and I won't have to follow up on that. Then if I go back into my inbox, I'll have all the items that I want to take care of today. Now, let's just say, for example, something that I decided last week was important to me. Today comes and I'm swamped. I've got a ton of stuff going on, and I know I'm not going to get to it. what we would recommend is that you prioritize your day within Close.io and move that item out, just so you can kind of keep that peace of mind that, hey, everything that I have that I need to take care of is done, and things that I decided maybe aren't as important, I move them over to tomorrow. And the easy way to do that is just to go into the item. If you check it in this term for this task, I can snooze it. So I can actually say, okay, I'm going to push this off until sometime in the future. And in this case, I'll just push it to tomorrow. And now my inbox has no items in it. So now I can move on to some of my other tasks that I have for the day, which might be some of my more outbound communication with some new leads or prospects. And that's kind of where we're going to go next. So hopefully that all makes sense. Now, so to transition, now that we've taken care of a lot of our inbound stuff, let's talk about how you can isolate leads and build the buckets that you need to actually do some of your outbound communication, and then use some of the tools that we have to help you do that quicker. So what we're going to go through is some of our searching capabilities. So search in Close.io is incredibly powerful, but you definitely need to know how to use it and how to use it well. And a lot of that becomes apparent when you try to build actionable lists. So what I mean by that is I can easily go into Close.io and say, who are all of my customers? And this is a list of everyone that is a customer with us or with this fictitious company. So this isn't very useful to me in terms of what am I going to do with this? I'm likely going to just click through each single one of them, look at the situation, and then decide whether or not to do anything. So obviously that's not ideal. So we want to make sure that this list is actionable in some way. So let's just say, for example, my company wants to touch base with customers every 30 days. So if we don't communicate with them within 30 days, that means that we should reach out in some fashion, whether it be an email to check in on things or give them a call, whatever the case is. So what I can do here is also add some criteria to communication to say, who are the leads that I haven't communicated with in the last 30 days? So as you can see over on the right here, I have all of these different abilities to narrow my results, and based on really any type of data. It can be custom fields on the lead itself. It can be activity levels around emails or calls or SMSs, or this is just a general communication bucket. So really anything that you can think of that you would want to put people into buckets based on who they are and what activity levels you have with them, you can do it with searching in Smart Views. So this is going to say who are all the customers where the latest communication date with them is more than 30 days ago. So that narrowed my list down from 900 or so down to only 45. So now this is a much more manageable list, and these are the people that I can then maybe just go and give them all a call and check in on things, or send them all an email, or at least maybe go through and see individually what the situation is with them. But I know they're in a bucket that's much more manageable for me, and I'm not just looking at every single lead that I have in the system. And then once I've decided that I like this list, and this is a list that I'm going to use on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis or a monthly basis, I can actually go and save it. So I can save it as what we call Smart Views. So Smart Views are just saved searches that you can access at any time, and they're going to be dynamic. So as I start to communicate with these leads, they're going to no longer meet the criteria of the last communication date being more than 30 days ago. Or if they're not customers anymore, they'll fall off of this list. And I can have other lists that say, hey, who are the people that canceled recently? Maybe I can go back and see why, or get some feedback on that. So that you can build Smart Views based on your sales process and your workflows, and then you can save them, and then you can use them all the time, and you can use some of our bulk features to actually outreach in a faster and more efficient way. So you can see that when I save this as a Smart View, this little icon is available now. So this is what we call the power dialer. So this is where you can actually dial that list of leads, and it'll just dial one after the other, so you don't actually have to click back and forth on all the time and decide who you're going to call next. So before we get into using the power dialer, what I want to do is just go through a couple of search examples, just so you can maybe see ways that search can apply to your sales process or your business, and then we'll come back into here and use the power dialer and use bulk email as well. So what we're going to do is switch back and do what we call searching in Smart Views 101. And the easiest way to think about search is to come up with this statement of what you're trying to build. So if you go through the narrow your results, you're probably going to click a bunch of things and build a query, and it may or may not be exactly what you think it is. So the easier way to do it is to just talk out loud about how you would describe it to someone that's outside of Close.io. So if I wanted to build a list of all the people, all the new leads that I've never called or emailed, that's a very simple one, right? So if we turn that into the query in Close.io using that narrow your results, it's going to look like this. So the my part of it turns into this custom lead owner is me. So lead owner or user field is going to be unique probably to your business. Lead owner is one that we put in there where you might have one that's sales manager or like sales rep or account manager or whatever the case is. And you can have different users assigned to the same lead, but just in a different role. But this custom lead owner is me. That's all of my leads. Then we're saying the new leads. So not people that are customers, not people that we have existing conversations with, not people that are interested or qualified, but the people that just came in, they're in the potential status. So these are the people that we probably haven't actually had a conversation with yet. So lead status is potential. Then we're going to say never called or emailed. So this is calls 0, email 0. So as soon as I call or email these people, they fall off of this list, and another list is going to, based on different criteria, will pick them up at a certain point. And that's where you can use Smart Views to build your workflows, and we can obviously help you out with that. So then the next bucket is that once I call these people, my first step is going to be to call. They're either going to fall into a bucket where I didn't connect with them, or I did connect with them and they were maybe interested, so I can continue the conversation. So the first one is, who are all the leads that I called today but I didn't connect with? And that turns into a very similar search to the last one, but the call date is now today, meaning that I did call them, and the duration of that call was less than 2 minutes. So why I say less than 2 minutes is usually if you pick up the phone and you say, hey, not a great time to talk, can you call me back, whatever, that's not really a meaningful conversation. So you wouldn't want to follow up with them in a very unique way. You might want to say, hey, any call that's less than 2 minutes means that we may have reached a gatekeeper, we may have not really gotten a hold of them, so it's not a meaningful conversation. There's no point in following up differently than if you really hadn't answered the phone. So that can be, you can tweak that to your own needs. So you could say any call that's less than 30 seconds, or any call that's less than a minute, or you could just say, hey, if the call is longer than 0 seconds, we want to treat it as a unique interaction as opposed to somebody that just didn't answer the call. So that's up to you. But usually we recommend putting some type of duration around whether or not the call was meaningful. Or they're going to fall into this other bucket, which is my interested leads that I did have a meaningful conversation with today. So very similar, it just flips two things. It's going to flip the lead status, because now that we've had that conversation and determined that person is interested, or that lead is interested, we do want to go ahead and change their lead status over to interested. And then that meaningful conversation is, we talked for longer than 2 minutes. So they're going to fall into this bucket, which means, hey, these are the people that I had very unique conversations with, that we have some definite different next steps. So they're going to go into a list where I can call everybody and then go and follow up with the people that seemed like they were interested. Cool. And then the last one is going to go a little bit further down the pipeline, but just so you can kind of see a different approach to a smart view, is smart views can be what you should be doing, which is, hey, I'm going to call these people that I've never called before, or you can say, who are the people that I haven't called in the last 2 days, and I want to call them again. But you can also kind of identify some things that might be slipping through the cracks, where if you have an active opportunity on a lead, but you're not communicating with them and you don't have any established next steps, that might indicate that something is going wrong. And that might mean something based on your sales cycle, whether it's you have a long sales cycle where it's 6 months, or you have a short sales cycles where it's 3 days. That can mean different things to different people. But this is just an example of an opportunity that's open on a lead where there's no next steps and there's no communication recently. So again, this is just another example where the my is still custom lead owner is me. Then I have active opportunities, so it's this opportunity status type is active, and then haven't communicated with recently in the last week, so greater than 7 days ago. And then the no next steps is that there are no incomplete tasks on the lead. So when you have a next step, generally, if it's a unique next step, you're going to create a task on it to follow up on a certain day or do a certain thing. And then that'll go into your inbox as we showed. But if there's not an incomplete task, that might mean that you don't have any next steps with that lead. So that's just the indication that we use in this example. So this would be one that you could use maybe to manage some of your opportunity pipelines to just make sure things are going the way that they should be. And again, this is part of this is to show you that these can look a little complicated, but the main thing that you want to think about is that we can help you as long as you can write this sentence. So if you can tell us this very simple statement, and you can either, we'll show you how to get help a little bit later, but you can email our support team. You can use us as a success team. And you can say, hey, I'm trying to build this query. It'd be really helpful for me in my sales process. I'm having trouble doing it. Can you guys help me out? And you send us that statement, and then we'll send you back the query that you would use to do it. And obviously, as you do that, as you go along, you'll find that you'll be able to build these in no time. So just a couple examples that you can use and you can view to kind of see how these queries or smart views come together. But then let's go back and talk about how you can actually use some of the bulk features that we have in order to reach more people faster. So generally, and what you might be doing today is a process of looking at a lead, doing the research, calling the lead, then deciding how to follow up and doing that follow-up immediately. So if they answer, you're going to obviously have that conversation with them, and then you might send that follow-up email immediately. If they don't answer, you're going to send them a templated email or something, or maybe that's your step. And generally, that you doing all those things, that research, that calling, that emailing within the same like 5-10 minute span. So it does take you 5 to 10 minutes to actually call or email a lead or research the lead. So what we usually recommend is split those tasks up. So if you're going to call 30 people and you haven't done any research yet, or no one has done research yet, do your research on all of them. Put your note or whatever on the lead that has your talking points or things that you're going to talk about. Do that for all 30 of them. That might take you 30 minutes, like a minute or two, maybe an hour. But then when you go to actually call, you can call the 30 people in the course of 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's if you don't actually answer and nobody answers, but hopefully they do. So hopefully that takes you a little bit longer, but you won't have to constantly switch context, and you're only calling. And then once you've called that list, those people will naturally fall into the right buckets where the interested people are in a list where you can say, hey, here are all the people that I need to follow up with individually because I need to schedule that demo that we talked about, or I need to send that document that I mentioned. And then anybody that doesn't answer, they're going to go into a generic bucket where maybe you're just sending them an intro email that says, hey, just try to reach you. Here's what I was calling about. And then you don't have to send that template over and over and over again. So with that in mind, what we recommend is that you use the smart views and some of our bulk features to really accomplish these tasks faster. So I don't have that many leads. I only have 2. But in this case, here are all of my new leads that I've never called or emailed. And what I'm going to do is use the power dialer and actually go ahead and give them a call. So I'm going to continue calling these leads. It's going to prepare to call the leads. And in my ear, I hear it calling. And then what happens is if Whitney answers, I can be on the phone and I can take some of the call notes as I'm talking to her, and I can go and then say, okay, this is what we talked about. She's interested. We're going to actually set up a demo for next week. Great. Let's just say the call hangs up. We're done. I'm still editing the lead. You can see that as soon as I started editing, the power dialer actually stopped. So it's not going to go ahead and call the next person. It's going to wait for me to actually kind of say that I'm ready. And then I can go ahead and continue to say, all right, appointment set. We're going to say this was $1,000 and probably will close in 2 or so weeks. And it was with Whitney. And then if there were any comments, I could put them in here, if whatever plan type or number of users or whatever it is that you're selling. I go ahead and hit save, and that'll be on there. And then as the dialer notices that I'm not doing anything, it's going to start to fill up this bar. So I could actually hit pause if I wanted to stop it, or it would just move on to the next lead. Obviously, if you're calling people and they're not answering, it's going to be more of like a repetitive process where it's call, no answer. Okay, it's going to call the next person once I hang up, and I'm not leaving a voicemail or anything. And as you're dialing, you have a couple of different options around settings. So 2 big ones. One of them is reducing the ring time. So if you're somebody that's like, no matter what happens, I'm never going to leave a voicemail. We just don't do it. You can reduce the ring time, which lowers the likelihood of you actually reaching voicemail. And it also allows you to call more people, because if you're assuming that if it rings 5 times, they're not going to answer, then you can just give up then, as opposed to waiting for it to hit an actual like voicemail or anything. Obviously, you can hang up at any time and reduce it even further, but this is just an automated way of doing that as well. Another one that's useful is a lot of our customers and teams will do a shared power dialer session where they'll actually they'll all call the same list at the same time. And the way that the power dialer is designed, it's not going to call the same lead twice. So you don't have to worry about overlap, but you can have like a power hour where everyone calls that list of leads and you see who can connect with the most people, create the most opportunities, whatever the case is for your team that helps you guys get motivated and kind of work together. And you could do that too. So you could share a link to the power dialing session. But if somebody happens to just click the same list that you're calling in, that will have the same effect. So if I go to this customers with no recent communications list and everyone on the team is calling that list at the same time, it knows that you're all calling it, so it also won't dial the same people over and over again. Cool. So then once I'm ready, I can actually just go and hit call next lead, and it says that there's no leads left to call. It's because the number that I use for both of those leads is the same. So I could actually start over if I want to, and then it'll call Matt. I'll say I called him less than a minute ago, and then it'll go ahead and he's not going to answer, so I'll hang up. And then I'm just going to pause this, and I can go back into my leads. So I had 2 calls, and actually the one thing that I know I did not do is Whitney was interested. So I need to make sure that I mark her as interested. So that'll be the lead status change. So she has an opportunity now, and now I'm going to mark her as interested. You can actually do some automation with this if you want to set up, if you're familiar with like Zapier, you can have certain things like, hey, when a new opportunity is created, if the lead is in potential, make sure they marked as interested, kind of save you a step there as well, just so you don't forget like I just did. And then you can go back through, and now I have those 2 buckets that we talked about. So I have this, cancel this out. So I have the call today. Whitney shouldn't be in there. She'll update in a second. So I'll have the call today with no connection, and then I'll have the call today and interested, which Whitney will pop into in just a second. But with this call with no connection, this will be the one where I could go through and bulk email and follow up. And I could use the bulk email tool to do that. So let's just say I called 50 people and 20 of those people fell into this bucket of called, but I didn't have a connection with them. I would be able to go through and bulk email and send them maybe the intro email all at once. So instead of sending them that same templated email over and over and over and over again as I make the call and they don't answer, I'm just going to wait until I'm done calling and then send that bulk email to anybody that didn't answer. So then what I can choose to do here is send it to only the first contact or all contacts. If I have multiple contacts on the lead, I can send it to multiple, but in this case, it'll just be the first one. And then I'll have the ability to preview it. So as I go through here we're already updated. So Whitney's no longer in here. So this just says it's going to send to 1. It just took a second to update her info. And then here is the message that is going to be sent. So it's going to say, I can see exactly what it says, how those template tags are coming over, and then I can actually, if there were 100 of these, if I really wanted to, I could preview all of 100 of them and make sure that they all look good. And then when I'm ready, I could just hit send, and it's going to go ahead and send all of those right away to those leads. So that's a way that you can kind of change up your workflow a little bit, where if today you're doing a lot of different thought process tasks, where if you're researching, then calling, then emailing, you might be able to change that workflow and bucket those actions together. So you can do all of your research up front, then you can do all of your calling, and then do all of your email. And because you're not constantly switching your mental tasks, you'll likely be able to do that a lot faster. So yeah, that's a bit of the overview that we wanted to do within Close.io. So I'm just going to go back through real quick and recap, and then we'll see if there are any questions. So tips for making smart views to make them actionable. So all leads in a particular status that we did with that customer example, probably not helpful, because they could be in any number of different situations. but an active opportunity with no recent communication, that might be an actual actionable smart view. Maybe you want to give all those people a call. Um, so that would be a list that is actually very useful. The other one you can do is build negative smart views. So if you have a lead that has an overdue opportunity where we said it was going to close today, but we said it was going to close last month, but obviously it's not closed yet. We can build a list that has all those people in it, and we can go through and see what the case is with them. So you can make sure that nothing slips through the cracks there. Calling, email, and SMS are all built in, so keep that in mind. You should be emailing out of Close.io. You'll have some additional capabilities in terms of email tracking. You'll be able to track opens and things like that. And then as you use Inbox, you'll be able to clean up your Gmail or whatever email client you're using before you even get there. Then you can leverage bulk email and Power Dialer to speed up some of your outreach. The inbox and Close.io is kind of where you should start. So it's all of your inbound communication, just like some email clients you can snooze and prioritize. So you don't necessarily have to do everything at that day, but you should try to get towards inbox zero, as few items in there as possible, just so it doesn't get overwhelming. And then you kind of just completely forget about inbox entirely and you have 200 items in there and you're never going to look at it. So tips for structuring your day in Close.io, again, start with items in your inbox. And then one of the big things is to block off specific times for certain types of outreach. So if you have a smart view that is all the leads that are potential leads that you've never called and there's 500 people in there, you could potentially try to call all 500 of them, but you might be better off doing as many calls as you can in an hour or 2 hours and then moving on to another type of outreach. So then maybe you switch gears and you do some of your opportunity follow-ups, or if you have like a other specific smart view that you use for certain situations, you can use that so that you're blocking off specific times so that you're not just totally focusing on one part of your sales funnel or what you have in your pipeline. Then obviously you're going to handle your scheduled calls. So if you need to leave Close.io, you can. All of it, like the missed calls or any emails that you have, will be in there when you get back. And then handle your incoming emails in Close.io before going to your company email inbox. Like I said before, it'll just keep that to all of your internal communications or anything third-party related. So then you'll be able to kind of handle your email more efficiently. So not only do we want to help you out with using Close.io, but we can also help you out with some sales tips as well. So some of these are links to articles or blogs that we've written that are very helpful both inside and outside Close.io. Some are definitely inside Close.io related, which is some of like the smart views help you joining in tasks, but maybe the sales templates is something that you can apply whether or not you're using Close.io at all. So those will be available in the deck in our blog, and Help Center are very useful as well. So last thing is, how do you get help if you have any questions? You can email me, Matt at Close.io, or you can use my Calendly. That'll be in the deck as well. Or you can use our Help Center. So the Help Center up here, if you go and you see this circle with the question mark in it, this will create an email that sends it over to our support team, and then they will respond to you and it'll go right back to your email. So then you can just open up a ticket here. This is what you can use if you're having any issues with the platform, or if you have one of those smart view questions. So if you're saying like, hey, how do I build this particular list of leads? I'm having an issue trying to do it. You can go ahead and send that to us in a ticket. If you have a file attachment, you can attach it, and then we'll get back to you really quickly. Or if you click the support center, you'll go right over to our Help Center where you can view some of the articles that we may have written on searching or using the Power Dialer, for example. Cool. So looking at it, I don't see any questions that